Midbar, the book of Numbers, is bracketed by two lists of names, one of which I just read. The first list at the start of the book is mentioned in anticipation of the census that gives the book its English name of Numbers. It's a list of the chieftains, the heads of each tribe for the generation that left Egypt, the generation that Moses led on a very circuitous route through the Midbar, through the wilderness. But in Parshat Matot, we find a different list of names of the leaders whose charge it will be to settle their families in their apportioned territories and seed a new and entirely new life in the land of Israel. And it's this second list of names, I would argue, that the Torah wants us to hold on to in our memory. That's why they are listed with such prominence at the end of the book. It's this new generation unsullied by the sin of the golden calf and by an incessant and persistent sense of entitlement and ingratitude that characterized those who circled the desert for 40 years that we celebrate as we finally stand on the banks of the River Jordan ready to cross into our Holy Land. Of course, it's not that the Torah wants us to forget the generation of the Exodus. On the contrary, their experiences, and particularly the lessons of their failures, are integral to its message. But to me, there is a definite sense here not just of tradition in our parasha, but also of elevation when we compare these two generations, the generation of wandering and wilderness and the generation of rootedness, and rebirth. The difference between these two generations is captured beautifully in the Talmudic story about the sage Choni HaMa'agel, Choni the circle maker, who was a figure of great power and great mystery who lived in the 1st century CE. Choni was a kind of miracle worker. He gets his nickname, the circle maker, from a different story than the one I want to share this morning, one where Choni draws a circle around himself and refuses to move from that spot until God sends rain to put an end to a devastating drought. In fact, he was so demanding, so petulant, and so disrespectful to God that he was nearly excommunicated by the rabbis. Choni reminds me very much of that first generation of Israelites that came out of Egypt. They too had a direct line to God, and they used it to mostly complain. Immediately after crossing the Sea of Reeds, they ironically begin railing against God because they were thirsty. First, there was too much water, and then there wasn't enough. Likewise, when Choni stood in a circle and demanded that God send rain, at first God sent small droplets of water down from the clouds, and this only enraged Choni more. More water, he screamed up at the heavens. Why wasn't Choni excommunicated? Because another rabbi, Shimon ben Shetach, the powerful brother of Queen Shlom who was the regent of Judea, yes, a woman in charge, argued that Choni had a special relationship with God. It seems God has a soft spot in his heart for irritable prophet-like figures who can move bodies of water with a gesture of their hands. Nevertheless, Choni's life ends very strangely and very tragically. And this is the story that I wanted to share, particularly this morning on Golden Year Shabbat, when we celebrate the greatest and most cherished generation of our members, those whose accumulation of age and wisdom has granted them a place of honor in our community. It's no doubt a story that many of you have heard before, yet as you'll see, it's particularly fitting for how it is that we've chosen to honor our senior members this morning. The story begins, as many in the Talmud do, with a question that Choni has about a verse from the Tanakh, from the Bible, from Psalm 126. Shir HaMa'alot B'shuv Adonai et Shivat Zion Hayinu Kechol Mim. A song for our ascent back to the Holy Land after 70 years of exile, during which our people were like dreamers. Is it possible, Choni asked, for 70 years to be like a dream? How could anyone sleep for 70 years? Well, one day Choni was journeying on the road and he saw a man planting a carob tree. Choni asked him, "How long does it take for this tree to bear fruit?" The man replied, 70 years. Choni then further asked him, "Are you certain that you will live another 70 years to see the tree bear fruit?" The man replied, "I already found grown carob trees in the world. As my forefathers planted those for me, so too I plant these for my children." Choni then sat down to have a meal, and sleep overcame him. As he slept, a rocky formation enclosed upon him, which hid him from sight, and he slept for 70 years. When he awoke, he saw a man gathering the fruit of the carob tree, the same carob tree that was there when he fell asleep. And Choni asked him, "Are you the man who planted the tree?" The man replied, "I am his grandson." Thereupon Choni exclaimed, "It is clear that I have slept for 70 years. Of course, the lesson of this first half of the story is that for a generation to be great, it must root itself firmly in the ground and plant seeds for the future. For greatness is not determined only by what we produce while we live, but by those things that we create, that we nurture, that will live on and sustain others long after we die." And most, when they tell the story, stop here. But sadly for Choni, that is not where the story ends. Choni returns home and begins to look for those who might remember him. When he arrives, he inquires, "Is the son of Choni the circle drawer still alive?" The people answer him, "His son is no more, but his grandson is still living." Thereupon he said to them, "I am Choni, the circle drawer." But no one would believe him. Choni went to the Beit Midrash, the study hall, and there he overheard the scholars say, "The law is as clear to us as it was in the days of Choni, the circle drawer. For whenever he came to the Beit HaMidrash, he would settle for the scholars any difficulties that they had." Whereupon he called out, "I am he." But the scholars would not believe him, nor did they give him the honor due to him. This hurt him greatly, and he prayed for mercy, and then he died. Like that first generation of Israelites, Choni's name was indeed preserved, but only his name. His spirit did not endure and was not celebrated, because if it had been, surely he would have been recognized by those in the Beit Midrash, even when it might have seemed impossible that he could still be alive. Why was Choni's image erased and forgotten amongst the Torah scholars? Choni was a man who during his life, no doubt, relished his prominent position among the sages. But perhaps because he drew a circle around himself, because he placed himself at the center, his name endured, but his face, his image, did not. Choni was not a planter. He did not understand that unless he placed others before himself, unless he sacrificed a little bit of his own sustenance, his need for sustenance and recognition for the sake of those who would come after him, he could never truly be great, because those who are great are never forgotten. They live on in the fruit of the trees that they plant during their lifetimes. This past week, the planters of our community, the seniors who we celebrate and honor today, received a gift in the mail, a packet of marigold seeds. And though we hope that those of you watching who are honoring today have the opportunity to watch them blossom and enjoy the golden light that they reflect into your eyes, please know that what they represent is not the task that you have ahead of you, but what you have already accomplished in your many years of service and dedication to our Sheret Israel community, to your families, and to the Jewish people. We who honor you today, one generation to the next, are truly the seeds that you have planted in this incredible, blossoming, vibrant garden that we call Sheret Israel, a garden that will cherish your names and your faces for generations to come. We will always remember you. We bloom because of the care, the love, and the nurturing that you have gifted to us through the blessing of your lives, for which we are indeed forever grateful.
Shakoach. Beautiful teaching. So thank you so much for your teaching, Adam, to honor our seniors, and I'm now going to offer a blessing, a bit of a ritual moment. This is called A Blessing for Growing Older, written by Rabbi Dale Friedman. May you see the blessing in all your days. Notice beauty and sweetness and be amazed. May you love without bound, ever feel God's surround. May you mend and tend, may you learn without end. May you see the blessing, may you seize the blessing. May you be a blessing in all your days. How many adventures you've had on your way, delights to be sure, also loss and dismay. Your vision has broadened, your heart opened wide. Your wisdom deserves to be prized. You know now what counts. With the rest, you are through. You hold paradox and see gray, it is true. No more playing safe from your core, you'll not veer. Treasure this moment, it's dear. May you see the blessing in all your days. Notice beauty and sweetness and be amazed. May you love without bound, ever feel God's surround. May you mend and tend, may you learn without end. May you see the blessing, may you seize the blessing. May you be a blessing in all your days. And I also want to offer you the words of Psalm 92, Od Yinuvun B'Seva, Deshenim V'Ra'ananim Yiyu, L'Hagid Ki Yashar Adonai Tsuri V'Lo Avla Tabo. May we grow fruitful as we age, ripe and abundant and sage. Keep our hearts open to all we face, present to goodness, even a trace. Renew us, let our spirit soar, sustain us, our rock, for more. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Praised are you, God, sovereign of the universe, who has given us life, who has sustained us, and who has enabled us to reach this miraculous occasion. And we all say,
Amen.
Amen.